Hello, my name is Dominic Underhallhouse and welcome to another episode of Moonbreaker. So, we're having a little bit of break from the PvP side of things. We've tried a few different lists out, we've tried a few different styles, we've adjusted the list and that sort of thing. So now it's time to dive into what I think is probably going to be the one that's quite time consuming and probably one that I'm not entirely convinced that I'm going to have any skill for. We are going to paint a model. So, the first thing we need to do is pick a model, and I think I've got one in mind. The painting is something that I do in Warhammer 40k, but I do it as it's a necessity rather than because I'm good at it. I'm not good at it whatsoever. So some of the more impressive ones like Zak's Jakar just looks way beyond my realm of, what I could use at the moment. Stitchy McPatchy looks fairly straightforward, but I don't want to just go straight forward, I want to go with something that I'm going to use. So, some of the ones I've been going through so far. Jailbreak I've actually used quite often, I like the look of Jailbreak. Chuck and Co I quite like as well, and again that looks fairly simple, it looks quite straightforward. I think, there is one that I've got in mind that I'm considering, and that is Snareling. So let's have a look at Snareling. The thing with this is Snareling looks reasonably complicated, but not just completely out of the realms of possibility. I mean, I won't get anything this quality, but that's one option there, and the other one we've got is going to be Chuck and Co. So we've also got the person on top with the big old mech there. So the mech is easier to make look good in you just block colours, but we're not here for easy. Let's have a look at Snareling. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is pick a new scheme. So I had a look at the tutorial when I was out of the video here, and we can look at things like this as a mixing palette, which is really interesting. So you can actually, draw over it, you can mix things together. So if we've got that pink and that white, we can create a mixture of the two here to make like a different colour that we wanted. If we want it a bit more pink, we can mix that in. So we can even just do this and then bring those two together over here, and what you can do is you can use a colour picker to pick any one of the shades that you've created. So we could be like, oh, we want the darker one. I believe, oh no, it's left click, isn't it? Yeah, so we can click any of these as to what colour we want it to be, which is awesome. So the first thing I want to actually do though is look at picking a base colour. So it's kind of a bug-like creature. In my mind, I'm trying to think of what sort of colour we want. So the base scheme has him kind of brownish with blue fur, because it's sort of like a bug crossed with an animal of some sort. But I'm not sure I like brownish and blue fur. I actually almost think I like going the other way around. So we can clear that palette. I think I like the idea of going for a blue base colour and make him look proper buggy. So again, this is a bit of an odd one because it's brown around here but then bluish on his face, but I think bluish in general is going to be what we want to look at. So first we want to choose what sort of blue we want. I'm liking a more of a pale one, that sort of thing. We're going to go with paint first, full brush size, full opacity, and following the tutorial's instructions, we're going to paint the whole model. So I can immediately tell you that this is kind of what I wanted, but it looks a little too vibrant for what I was thinking. However, I quite like it on the tails. So what was in fact, let's forget that move for a moment. But so one of the things I'm going to do, some of this I'm just going to be testing, because one of the things it mentioned was dry brushing. So if we go for like a sort of an ashen coloured dry brush, reduce the opacity a little bit, say down to here, and shrink this down. It also said if you use the shift key, it doesn't go off of that piece of the model. So that's not really doing much. Let's do a bit less opacity there. Okay. Hopefully this is highlighting some of those edges a little bit. It does look to be potentially. I'm not seeing too much of it yet. There we go. Yeah, it does look like it's doing it slightly. But then what we also want to do is choose a darker colour with a wash. This one we are going to go for like a brownish colour and lower the opacity, and then do the same thing again, and apparently this is supposed to fill in some of the the recesses. So, do we have any sign of that happening? Okay, let's make it a little bit more. Here we go. So now you see this is filling in the little gaps on the model, and we're making an actual texture here on the tail that looks, it looks a little bit more natural. We are going to hold the shift key in case it does actually work the way it was mentioned, and that stops you drawing on other parts of the model. So we've done the white over it. We're getting this brown in here. Again, that shift key does seem to be working. It stopped us going over that side better. So let's just start with this for now. We're not going to be rushing into this. It's not going to be our final pattern, maybe our final colours, but we're not there yet. Okay, so that appears to have done it a lot more on that side when we thought we were filling in this side. So, is that a thing that's just happened? Yes, it is. Okay, so interesting. So we couldn't quite get it to go on that side of the model, but that's fine. Kind of okay with how that looks, so we just need to work on this one here. Get a bit of that wash going as well to give it just that little bit of sort of feathery texture there. And I think the important thing as well, that's a bit much, but we can cope. We can cope. So one of the other things we want to do is just make sure things stay looking correct. So this is like a metallic thing. Well, it could be metallic. You can have it however you want. I like the idea of doing it sort of like a leathery, metallic-y sort of thing, maybe with some straps around it. But we need to see what different colours we've got, because one of the things we'll notice is that we don't have all the colours yet. We're going to unlock a lot of these in future, sort of content. So what I want to do is I want to look for a colour that I think is a reasonable colour for like a leather. And I actually think we might genuinely be using the mixer here. So get a bit of fresh soil in there. So mix these together as well. So this doesn't quite look like any of the others to me. I want it a little darker than that. And then maybe just mix a little up here. So this sort of colour in the middle is about what I'm going for. Is that changing? So let's go to the colour picker. Yeah, that is changing as we got it. So it's about this that we want. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start filling in. So I was trying to between this or also the backs, the straps. So let's go to paint and let's try a smaller brush and let's try and fill in these straps. So if we hold shift, can we go over the line? No, we can't. That is good to know. So the shift key does work, which is excellent for me because I am not a neat person. So hold shift. This is going to make me actually want to paint my models. Without this shift key, I think I'd be a little bit more dubious as to whether or not this was part of the game that's for me. And it does let you go over multiple parts as well. And there you go, you can use WASD keys at the same time. So we're actually getting a good bit of colour on this in a sort of colour scheme that we like. And then we can just rotate around here, hold the shift key again, and refill in the next part. So these straps actually look quite well done to me. There we go, a little bit more there. And then there we go, underneath. So this is one thing I'm going to forget, is that there's different angles to these models, and we're going to have to keep checking all the different angles to make sure we're hitting all the different surfaces. So that I actually quite like. I think the pouch should be a little lighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use another colour here, and then I'm going to blend these together to make something like this. There we go. And now I can use this tool again. Oh, okay, that's not what I thought was happening. There we go. Nope. No, this is what we want. So how do we turn off the colour picker? I don't know how to get... No, I don't want that. I want this. That is what I want. Oh, we're not on a brush. That would be why. Self-explanatory. Can't paint without a paintbrush. So what I want to do here is I want to go over this whole thing with this sort of colour with a lighter one. But we're also going to look at... Basically, we're going to see how good a detail we can manage as someone with no artistic ability whatsoever. If you'd have seen some of my Warhammer models, you would know that, you know, I'm not in the game for the hobby side of things. I'm in it for the gaming. But in the right situation, I could see myself getting involved and, you know, wanting to do just a little bit more, putting the effort in, make some nice coordinated teams. I do like that this is a slightly different colour from the leather of the belts. I think that's something I wanted to be the case. There we go, found another little spot. But what I want to do here is I want to make... So we've got this chivalry colour that I've seen before, and it's sort of like a leathery red. So I kind of like that to try and fill in the top part of this, but maybe more as like an airbrush. So let's make this a little smaller and see what happens if we do this, to make it like a red leathery lid. There we go. This is actually turning out almost exactly how I wanted it, which I will be honest is quite a shock to me, because I don't usually expect much from these sort of things, because, like I said, not my forte. So I wanted the lid of the pouch to be like this, so we can give it a little bit of a, you know, different texture to it, a different sort of colour, different vibe. And then if we want a darker wash, let's go for the smoke this time. The opacity is down still, which is basically what we wanted, and we want this wash to fill in some of these darker bits here. So just define the lines a little bit, give it a bit more sort of personality, a bit more, you know, make it a little bit more obvious. Now the edges of this, we could also leave these as being the colour that they are, but we need to wash this as well. Move this over. Can't be having it looking too clean. We are in a fantasy world after all here. No dry cleaners as far as I'm aware. I mean, it's futuristic, that might be. So this here, I want to do a little bit of a colour on there. There was that goldsmith colour. So what if we just go to paint, go full opacity, and just paint this a little bit of a... Okay, so we went over there. This is one of the things that I'm going to struggle with. So let's try a smaller brush size and try and just stick around just the little latch and see what we can do. Okay, so how up close can we get? That side looks good. This side could do with a little more around there. You know what? That's not the worst. And if I get too obsessed, I was just looking at it thinking like, oh no, I've gone slightly over the edge here. By the time you're looking at a model from this distance, nobody's going to know. To use a sort of the meme language there. So, I think that's a good start so far. We've got some sort of details on this front. I think now we're looking at this back piece. Or the fur. But I'm unsure on the colour for the fur yet. So this back piece, I kind of want it to be metallic, but I don't have a metallic colour yet. So we've not unlocked any, we've not got any of those sort of things. We could be trying to play until we get some, but I think, you know, it's about a time to be doing it. Gravitone ore. Let's see what this looks like. Give it the shift button, we're at max opacity. Okay, that could be slightly metallic. I'm all for that. Yeah, this is what we're going to do for this part. So, going back to the metallic. Well, sort of slightly metallic. It does look almost sort of stone-like, or, you know, maybe like ivory maybe, which obviously we're not big proponents of the ivory trade over here. Hopefully that'll have been abolished by the time this, well, in the universe that this game happens in. But this is a decent colour for what we're trying to do. So let's fill this in. And then what we're going to do will astonish you, for anyone that knows me in real life, as to how much detail I'm willing to go into for this. I think, again, the shift key not letting you go over the lines is an absolute godsend. So we'll wash it first. We'll go for Again, probably like a shadow level. We want like something fairly dark. Maybe a little larger here. Because we want the definition on this to stand out, because it will make it look a little bit more metallic. And then one of the things that we're going to do in a moment is we're going to be going over it with a dry brush and seeing if we can get some sort of highlights out and, you know, pick up a couple of the features on it and make it look a little bit more, make it pop a little bit more. So get all these buttons and things hang out, and the dry brush should also help with the buttons. So I'm considering going in and just doing it the same way that we did this. I don't know if I've got the willpower, the patience, or even just the capability to do that reasonably. So I'm going to keep that in mind, but painting each one of these I think might drive me up a wall when we've got these little, you know, tricks and things as to how to make it go a little bit easier. I like the look of that. This looks well done. So now we are going to just try something. We're going to try the dry brush with that goldy colour, wherever that was, Goldsmith, and see what that brings out of this. Hopefully it will just make these look... Yeah, it is the metallic, so it's making the studs look metallic, which is what we wanted. Some little highlights on here to make the whole thing look a little bit more, you know, textured and that sort of thing. Again, probably a little bit on the handle more than we needed, but honestly, I don't hate this. I think this has come out nicely. This is exactly how I painted my real life Warhammer army. Is just going over it in a base colour. I now do washes. I didn't even do washes at the time, and then going back over it with a bit of dry brushing to give it more of a metallic effect. So I was considering going around the edges with something darker again, but for now I actually think that looks quite nice. I think we do want this strap here to be the same colour as here. So what we're going to do is just go straight back to paint, full opacity, and just fill it on in. Because this doesn't need to be the same as what it's attached to. In fact, I think I'd prefer it if it were different. So fill in our little leather strap here, because that's now the colour for leather on this model. Perfect. Honestly, this is way better progress than I thought I'd be making by this point in time. So we do still need to do the wash over it. I think we were doing like a dark, smoky one on this with about that sort of opacity. So we'll go over that just to sort of get some of those edges. You can see it's added a bit of definition there already, which is exactly what we want. I like the added detail that the leash sort of thing is snapped. It's a nice look. And then because we are, again, still part of the same thing, we're going to dry brush the gold, but only over these. We'll see if we can get these to come out. See, that's changing the whole thing. It's not doing those. So I think we actually need to paint them and do it ourselves. It's amazing the level of detail you can get to on this. So paint these little studs. So this is now the same as the latch on the little coin purse thing. But again, the difference in colour matters if you're really trying to make it match up. So fill this one in. I cannot believe we're 18 minutes into this already. So it's not even a big difference in colour from the other, but I think it's necessary and I think it works. And then again, we're going to go for a sort of a char wash onto it. Give it a bit of that dirty look, a bit of that... Yeah, I think it just adds a little bit of extra depth to it. Here as well. Stops it looking so drawn and makes it look more textured. So I think the next thing is the wash across these belts. And I think we do the same thing exactly. So maybe make it a little larger because we didn't wash these. And get some of the detail to pop on these as well. Look at that immediately, right? If you look at the one we've just done compared to the one above it, it looks so much more detailed and we've done no extra effort. So I mean, you can literally look at these side by side and they don't even look like the same paint job. This one looks way more real and textured and detailed. So these paints have been really well designed for a digital product. Like, this is how things work in the real. I keep saying the same thing, but it's absolutely true. This is how painting works on real models. So I think I can imagine a world where people actually get invested in painting their own models based on this game. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do, I feel like he's just looking at me strangely, so I want to colour in the eyes. So what I'm going to do is going to clear the palette, and what I want is I want like a pale yellowy colour. In fact, that's kind of nice. Let's see if we can fill the eyes in with that. We want paint, not a wash, so let's just undo that last bit there. Paint, full opacity. There we go. Excellent, so we've got eyes filled in there. We are also going to, again, go over the washes and things in the eyes to make them look a little bit more detailed. I think in this, I'm trying to figure out what we need to make the eyes look right. I almost don't want a circular pupil. I'm always thinking like an eye-shaped additional pupil. So like, you know, an actual eye shape for the pupil as well. So let's see if we can draw that. We're going to start it in, we're going to go for a dark colour, and we're going to need a small brush. Full opacity, even smaller. Oh, okay, I think we found the limit there. So let's see how well this goes. So this is going to be where we fall down, because this is out of my comfort zone. There you go. So I'll be honest, to me that's kind of sweet potato shaped. So let's see if we can match sweet potato with sweet potato on the other side. Center it, get a bit further in. So you can tell that, like, with the pixelation of what we're looking at, is probably because this is so zoomed in that it's never going to matter. The question is, does he look slightly cross-eyed? He does. So, I think it was inspired that we use here to... Nope, that wasn't it. What was it? It was this one, Sunshine. So we're going to cover this up, try again, but we're going to go slightly forward. I think we use the char. So let's make it all like here. Because obviously the other one we did aiming to be central, but this one we're not aiming to be central, we're aiming to be forward facing. I mean, from a distance, that's fine. Who says he doesn't have independent eyes anyway? So the next thing to do, again, we can wash these over. This one's going to be more of a soot wash. We don't want it to be too heavy, quite light, and just different size brush, way too big. I'm just going to wash over this lightly. Again, it's more to give it some texture than to colour it in much. It just now no longer looks as though it's completely just mono-coloured nonsense. Again, a bit dark on the inner eye, but I kind of like it. Looks a bit bruised. So I've been thinking about these sacks and what colours we want to do them. We've got the little red flare in the tails, which I quite like. I think I'm going to go for a slightly different thing for the fur. I'm not sure what yet. I was thinking maybe even red with white tips, so like reverse of what we did here. But for these, I actually think I want to go for them nearly white. So probably haze, no opacity, and then we're going to go for different highlights. Oh, we're on wash still, so let's undo that. Go back to paint. Let's try filling these in white and see where we go from here. So as bright as that looks, once we've washed it, it's not going to look the same. So yeah, shift key to not go over the edges is honestly, if this existed in real life, I wouldn't even mind painting my Warhammer models. So this does look bright, but it's going to darken up afterwards. At the moment, it looks kind of glowy. My goodness, this video's been going on way longer than I thought. But what we want to do, go for a wash, and the wash is going to be like a dirty yellow is what we're looking for. maybe like toner's glow, low opacity. Go over that. See, that's not doing much, so let's get less opacity. You see that's bringing out some of the sort of the features in the yellow there. So this is what we're hoping for. We're going to probably airbrush in the same colour to just bring out that detail a little bit more, especially getting, in fact that'll get those things out. So this is more for the veins, or sort of like the capillaries or whatever this is, yeah, whatever you'd call the lines on here. And then, so that's our wash. Oh, sorry, yeah, that's our first wash, and then we want to do a dry brush. So the dry brush I'm going to do like a light brown. Maybe this... I keep using the Goldsmith, but I kind of like it, but if we go really light on it... Or maybe like the fleshy colour, the Sunsail. So let's keep that low opacity, and maybe highlight it in this. Yeah, that didn't do it for me. What about more of a red? Like a burnt red, like the ensnared, there we go. So this is bringing out the detail, it's, again, texturizing it, which is what we wanted. I think this might be what we end up going with, because I think it gives it texture without being overwhelming. I think it sort of, it looks quite, almost like intimidating, like this isn't a bug that you want to mess with, for whatever reason. I'm curious that in the original model they had like half and half on here with like mottling and things like that, so clearly spent some time on here. Yeah, practicing with their own tools and that sort of thing. Let's fill in that bit underneath. I do wish we could get just a little more colour on the top with this, there we go. Because I feel like without that it does start to still look very, very like bright white. And we want it to look a little more natural, because no matter what you tell me, I've never seen something quite that bright in nature. Apart from some people's teeth on TV, but I'm not sure how much of that is really nature. I can see here we've missed a few spots with the blue for the base coat. So let's colour pick this and just paint it back in. I like this. So this is our beginnings of our model. I think this is a really good looking, you know, start to a model there. I think I'm going to do a little bit more. So I'm trying to think of what complementary sort of colours and things I want to go with things. So these things up here, again, because they're sort of auxiliary, I kind of want them to be almost a off-white colour as well. So I'm not going to go for anything bright on this. That's coloured all of that. Do the same this side. I like that you do get this option of like almost paint by numbers effect by doing this, because it does sort of help it out a little, make it a little more accessible. Again, these wanted to be just a slightly different colour. We'll use the ensnared again for the wash. Reduce the opacity down about 50-ish. There we go. Does this? Yeah, that's going on there as well. Again, I love how much this just gives it texture. It somehow didn't go on the back. There we go. This is looking nice. Now the question is, I think the fur is going to be a big one, because we can obviously do the skin. The skin we can just wash over and, you know, make look like we want to. But the fur, I kind of want to do it white tipped, but I'm trying to decide on the base colour. Because we've got blues, we could go greens. Let's try like a dirty green and see. I keep forgetting to change it back to paint. But let's go for like a dirty green and see, you know, how that was. See, the issue with this is then going over the skin, and that's what we don't want. So we're still going to hold the button. We're just going to be a lot more careful in the painting of it. And for now, just try and stick with like what I'm going to refer to as like the main, you know, the over the head and the shoulders kind of thing. I'm going to try and avoid too much of the skin and just stick with this for now. Again, we probably will go over a bunch of times, but this is stopping it being excessive. So let's pop up here. There. And now we can go for this one as well. So this should, in theory, yeah, it stays off of there. Perfect. I'm curious as to how they decided what counts as a different part of the model for the shift key. because there must be some sort of logic behind it. But let's fill this in. So I wasn't originally thinking green, but it was a colour that came to mind. I didn't necessarily want to do red because I feel like red's going to end up too close to brown. And why not go for a full sort of greeny blue palette on the on the creature itself? I think that could look. Oh no, that's an undo. There we go. Could look quite interesting. So we're not going to do all of it yet, but one of the first things we are going to want to do is get a wash onto this straight away. And again, we're going browny colours. We want this to be dirty and dingy, and yeah, we don't want it to look too clean, don't want it to look too polished, anything like that. And I think this is doing a good job. It's almost unsettling with the brown and the green together here. Like it doesn't look nice. It looks like something you'd find in a swamp, which is absolutely what I think we're going for here. Something off. It doesn't look like something you'd want to meet anywhere. So I'm also not convinced we're going to be finishing this model today, by the way. I'm just wanting to get a little idea of this onto the palette, see how we're looking. And then we're going to be highlighting it with an airbrush, and the airbrush is going to be one of our off-white colours. So let's try exhaust. Again, low opacity. That hasn't worked at all. That is far too intense for what we're hoping for. So this is going to be a big undo. Much lower opacity. See, this isn't highlighting like we thought. So maybe this isn't the answer for this. We'll see what we get. Because it almost looks like it's highlighting it the way I wanted, just not quite. That last one was shocking. See, that just doesn't look right to me. What about stipple? Yeah, don't know if the stipple did much either. Okay, let's try it as a wash. Does the wash help us highlight the edges of these a little bit, along with the brown? That's kind of getting more what I wanted. It's mellowing out the colours a little bit. It's highlighting the features on it a little. So maybe we do this and then use the brown as the dry brush. Actually, I kind of just like this. The only thing I wish is that I had a way of making it a little less shiny, a little more matte. But honestly, I'm kind of feeling it. Kind of liking it. I'm really happy with how this has turned out so far. The question is, do we keep... Do you know what I think we do? I think we make the rest of the fur a more muted shade of green. So have the aggressive green mane and then a more muted shade for the rest of it. So let's give that a go. And maybe we do finish this model. We'll see. I'm not convincing myself that we're doing anything either way. So go to paint, and let's just see, that's not what I wanted. We want something more, so maybe something like this, but then a little more, was that smoke? Okay, mix these together. So sort of a muted, dirty green sort of thing. And see how this comes out. Yes, that's exactly what I was hoping for, something like that. So it's just that little bit less intense. So we are going to undo this because we obviously went over the line there. And we're just going to shrink this down a little. And just try and stick to where the fur sits. I've got some friends that are really into their sort of art in real life. Oh, that was just so frustrating. Went over one tiny little bit on a different part of the model there. But yeah, I've got some friends who are very good at art in real life, so I might be just demonstrating this to them, saying, look, I can cope with art when it has an undo button. probably one of the defining factors of art, is making things look great without being able to just take things back whenever it doesn't go to plan. But that's not the point. Well, it's not. It is a point, but it's not the point I'm trying to make. Okay, get some nice underarm hair. Yeah, I like the shiny. Do I like the shinier mane? Or actually, I think I like this more. I think I'm going to replace all of that mane with this, actually. Still too big. Because I think this colour has actually got almost what I wanted down to a T. Whereas, that's actually right. I think the other one was a mistake. It was close, but it was a mistake. Whereas this has that, this doesn't have the sheen to it. It has like a grit, which is what we wanted. We didn't want it to be cartoon-esque or, something along those lines. And I think this has covered up pretty much all of that fairly well. So let's continue over the arms. A bit smaller. I can't believe how much time and effort I'm putting into painting a digital model right now. I'm impressed by the mechanics though, really am. It's working well, and also to anyone, that tutorial just gave me that little bit extra confidence in having a look at this. So the little videos that were up here, reading the painting one just gave me that little bit extra confidence. So if you're feeling unsure, like do I want to paint my own model, that sort of thing, absolutely give it a go. You read that up there, it'll give you a bit more confidence, or read it, watch it up there, it'll give you that confidence and you can start, making some progress on your own. So fill in these last little bits around here. Again, we're going to focus on the chest for now. We need to fill in those parts, so now it's more obvious when the fill hasn't gone on properly. Get some more underarm hair going. There we go. You're going to see me like biting my lip and be like focusing, because I've got a really absurd focus face sometimes. So yeah, we will be dealing with that in a moment, again the wash and things, but for now let's get the rest of it. We don't need to talk about this right now. Oh, we do, because I just went over the line. Let's go a little... Gotta be wary about the phrase saying let's go a little bit bigger when I'm painting this sort of area, but hopefully you know that I wasn't getting at anything. Oh, for goodness sake. I didn't see that brush go over there. I thought I was still neatly in this area. So we'll have a look at that in a moment, see if that's something I'm doing wrong, or if it just like, if the brush flows over, something like that. Okay, so we've got a bit of rump to do, a bit of booty. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. Like, I don't want it to be a mess, but I'm glad that I don't feel like I need to worry about every single bit being perfect, because it's going to be so far away that we look at it from. And at the moment, I don't think you can actually zoom in very well in the game either, which I would actually like, because then we can see other people's hard work. I don't know, maybe you can actually. No, you can zoom in fairly far. I've done that before. I'm thinking about rotating, not zooming, is what I'm struggling with. I cannot believe this is what I'm reduced to. Getting this little bit of effort done there. Oh, that. Brilliant. Got war paint. We'll just colour pick at that, I think. Just paint that back over. Hopefully not hitting that too badly. Here I think it's better to paint over than to undo, just because it would take a lot of effort to undo. There we go, so we've got our fur. I do think I prefer that actually. Oh, we're going to have to colour pick at this again. Fill in that little gap, and while we're here we'll fill in these here. I think we should be able to get away without that colouring. Let's just undo whatever that was. There we go. We might be able to get away without washing it again. Yeah, I don't think that's taken away from the wash at all. Got this little saddle. So now I think what I wanted for this was some sort of white dry brush effect. So, but maybe quite a pale one to just give it a little bit of a texture to it. Makes it look a little bit more fur-like, in my opinion. So this is you see, it's going from like a solid sort of green, like looking. It looks like it's gone from looking like green chunks of plastic to actually looking like it could be a bit more furry. And that's kind of what I wanted, just to highlight these edges a little bit with the dry brush. Give it that real Grinch style fur. There we go. I'm liking that. Do you know what? Unlike the Maximus one that we did, which was pretty much just a meme, I was just trying to work out what the controls are and that sort of thing. I would actually play this. Like, I would put this on the battlefield, and I'd probably even be somewhat proud of it. Because I think it's come out nicely. It's going to be my longest video yet as well, purely just based on getting caught up in the paint. Oh, I've missed an entire side of... in fact, no. Let's carry on dry brushing. Oh, hang on, we're using exhaust, so we can come back, that's fine. So let's just finish painting this. Opacity go from 25 up. Okay, so go back to exhaust, wash. No, dry brush, airbrush, dry brush. 25. Give that a bit of a paint through. Excellent. Right. Again, I feel like we're doing well here. So we've got a mouth to go. I'm not sure where we go with the mouth. I think almost just a darker blue, like this Aegis looking thing around the mouth. So in like the lips. It's not dark enough. Let's go under sea. Nope, that's why it's opacity and we're on dry brush. So let's ignore all of that. Undo that because that's awful and go back to the Aegis. Yeah, this could do. I'm going to sort out the inside of the mouth in a moment anyway, which is why I'm not fussed about rolling over it. That, however, was awful. Cannot believe... Again, zooming in like this would be so good on real models. I know you get those like magnifying glasses and platforms and things, but I don't have a steady hand. So being able to do this with an undo button like that is an absolute game changer for me. And I hate that phrase, but it literally does change the game. I feel the phrase game changer is overused drastically. Because many things it refers to, not even a game. It's like, oh, it's a game changer when it comes to ordering my shopping. Well, I've never seen anyone keep score or be like, oh, do you want to come over and play, keep track of my shopping budget for the month? No. And I'm not usually that snobby phrasing. In fact, there's a really interesting thing a while ago I saw with Stephen Fry, and it was talking about the different use of language and how people are sometimes quite precious about language and saying, oh, you've got to speak proper English and all that sort of thing. And his argument at the end of it was, if people know what you're saying, so what? Who cares if someone doesn't use your version of the language, if, when it comes down to it, you actually know what they mean. So it doesn't need to be proper, inverted commas, proper English. You just need to know what they're saying, and if you get the point across, then language just does its job. What is language for other than for us to communicate? So if we don't communicate in the way someone else likes, but it still makes sense, why get upset over it? It doesn't make sense to me either. So thank you, Stephen Fry, for that insight. I actually think that helped me, be a little bit more open-minded with things like that. I've always prided myself on being open-minded in general, but that one was one where, you almost hold a prejudice without realising that you do. I was like, wanted people to speak a certain way. I was like, actually, no, it doesn't matter. Why is my way better than theirs? Okay, so we've nearly done his lip gloss. Get a bit more inside the mouth. I'm sorry for like the weird camera angles here, because it's sort of... I feel like the controls are fairly intuitive, but I'm just not using them very well. I'm not taking advantage of the different camera angles and things, and there is also another couple of shortcuts you can use to do so, but I'm sticking to just using the keyboard, so that's probably partly on me as well, because the devs have made this more accessible than I'm making it look. So don't worry, it's not just a mess. Okay, so that's that. But then he's got the chitin sort of up here, sort of chitinous bit. How do you think maybe we do this the same? Because it looks like the same structure. So let's try this. Let's try doing this in the sort of the chitinous sort of colour scheme. Because I'm sure that that will actually be a similar thing, and then we can just sort of... Okay, that last bit went wrong. We don't want to go straight over onto its actual face. There we go. I don't hate this. It's kind of creepy, but I'm kind of alright with creepy on this. I don't want him to look cheerful and, you know, welcoming. He's here to screw you up from a distance. So let's get this painted into him. You know what? I take all of that back. I think what we just do is see if we can airbrush his lips, dry brush his lips even, to look a little bit. There we go. That works much better. So I think I did a little too much, so maybe a little too thick. Just lighten it up a little. And then bring that airbrushing in. I think that gives it somewhat of a desired texture, actually. I'm still not overly convinced, but I think that looks better than it was. And then maybe this sort of needs to be whitish on the front. Like, I like what they did with it originally, actually. Having it whitish on the front and then like darkish around. But do we want a similar dark? Like, we've got the red down here, but I don't know if we need to reuse the red. We've got the browns. I think the lips are kind of odd anyway, but then again, this guy's not exactly looking the most chill, is he? What do we do? This is super long. It's going to be nearly an hour of me deciding how to paint one guy. Let's try a whitish colour, go a bit more opacity, and try and just sort of do this. That's immediately wrong. This side of it, give it like an underbelly sort of thing. Because this does look almost snakish, dragonish on the way up. So why not paint it as one? A little bit across there. We need to get under there. God, this is like painting, trying to get the right angles. There we go, so that will meet up to there. Honestly, I kind of like that, and maybe just do some flecks around it, and then I do think we paint the horns in the same sort of undercolour, but then do a different wash, potentially, to give them that more horned look. Because we want the other bits to look sort of chitinous, whereas these we want to look horn-like. And someone's probably going to end up telling me, oh, they're the same thing, but as far as I know, they're not, so that is fine by me. Did we just scuff it? No. Do you know what? I kind of like that. Let's try it with like a smoky wash. But fairly opaque and see what happens here. In fact, let's just do the same wash. It's going to be looking different because it's a less textured part of the model anyway. So the horns will stand out from the from the rest. You know, again, I'm feeling good about this. I'm going to start just throwing this wash on some of the hand. Okay, undo that. There we go. Right, so we still need to. No, that's good. Alright, so let's apply this wash to the rest of the head. So there's a little bit more fur there that we've missed. And get this over here. Make sure the horns look like they have got some on. Ah, it was overdone a little. Sometimes it sort of puts it on in an angle that you can't see it. But let's colour pick of that. Just quickly fill that in. Can we make this a little sort of mottled almost? So what if we took like a soot colour, small sort of stipply brush, and then just... In fact, let's try a larger one. Okay, so that to me didn't do that much. I don't know how much further back we can go. What if we did like a really bright, fully opaque one and just... Yeah, that kind of works. And then if we go for like a greenish one down the arms. Just like maybe down like here, just give it that little bit of texture. Again, we're all about texture on this, making things look good. Because I don't know what I'm doing, but again, things looking too clean just doesn't look right. So this stippling gives it a little bit more, I would say humanity, but it's not a human. But it just gives it some blemishes, and that's pretty important in making something look realistic, in my opinion. Okay. Now I do think the thing left to do here is to change the feathers up. But yeah, let's just do that. Let's colour pick of this, because this is what I want to use as the feather colour now. We're going to go for paint, full opacity there, and we're just going to paint these feathers white, or off-white rather. The same colour as the cheek bubbles. Don't know what I'd call them other than cheek bubbles, but that's what I'm going with for now. But then I want to do a similar effect to them as they had before. So with that sort of ensnared around this wash. There we go. Give it that texture. Well, this is sort of more making the texture noticeable. So the texture exists on the model, but this is giving us a little chance to bring it out of it a little. And I'm going to go a little heavier with this wash than I did last time. There we go, right. The last question is, do we want to do anything with the fingertips and toes and things? Or the inside of the mouth? Do you know, I actually think the inside of the mouth needs to be like a light pinky flesh tone. So let's just see if we can... I mean, that actually looks terrifying. So let's tip up, say ah. There we go. that with a bit of a dark wash. It's fresh soil. There we go. Maybe that was a bit too much, so maybe this and lower opacity. No, I don't like either of those actually. I think that's too dark. Maybe like sun sail again. We've used this already. Go back to paint. It's very human, isn't it? Well, maybe not actually. It depends what humans you know, but maybe that's not like mine. So then Scattervine with a little bit of. Yeah, I'm okay with this. And then we're going to go for last time colour pick of this. Go for paint, and we're going to paint some fingernails with full. Because I feel like they should be the same colour as the horns, basically. Did not mean to get the shoulder there. I've turned into a nail tech. Come on, game. Rotate the board. That's number one. It's a reference if anyone gets it. I will be very impressed, but it is a fantastic show if you know what I'm on about. Okay. I don't think I'm going to go into any more detail on the nails. I'm just going to basically get them filled in. If I can find them, that is very close. There's no sort of middle ground, oh well. I mean, that's ridiculous. Get them claws did. And you can just hold your nail this way, sir. Hopefully the toes will be a little easier. Also, unbelievably glad he has less fingers than most humans do. Much easier to paint. And then let's get these toes done. And then I think we're going to call it a day. That is a gruesome toe. Why can't I paint? Okay, I've done something. What's happened? Please don't mess up now. I was really happy with how I've been doing. What's happened? Paint. Pick the brush. Got the opacity there. Okay, I've pressed escape. Does that help anything? What's happened here? Oh, the brush is shrinking as I get closer. I do not understand why that's happening when I go to the base, but not anywhere else. So if I go in, yeah, it just goes away. That's really bizarre. I guess we've got no detailed toenails here. Just hope they're about right, but I'm not too fussed by that anyway. Seems to still be doing the limitations on things, so maybe I was just too close. Like Alex Clare from the iPod advert. Had that album, by the way. Loved it. There we go. Right. I present to you our first happily painted model. I feel good about it. I like the colour scheme. I like what we've picked up. And frankly, I couldn't be more proud of myself. I was not expecting this to be along those lines. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any tips or tricks for the future, please let me know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, submit it, all that sort of thing. Submit it. Oh my goodness, I'm just making up words. Like and subscribe and leave a comment was what I was trying to say. And let me know what you think of our first attempt. Thank you very much and have a good day.